So, the next lesson was Clay Plus, and this is where the students were going to work with clay and add another material to create a sculpture. You emphasized that the piece did not need to be functional, and I thought that the examples that you showed in the PowerPoint really gave them the opportunity to see sculpture that was maybe a little more abstract, so that they then could possibly consider making something more abstract, which is difficult for students. So it was nice that you were showing them the difference between a functional and non-functional ceramics and how to push it in a different direction. Another thing in your PowerPoint that you addressed right away was that if you are connecting materials such as wire through a hole, that you're explaining to them that they need to think about the shrinkage rate of the clay. So for example, there's already a student working on hers that's making beads, and she made the beads a little larger so that the hole could be large enough so that it could fit on the bead tree in the kiln, and that way she'll be able to put yarn or string through those holes later after she glazes. You also gave them a long list of things that they could use, in addition to showing many examples of different materials such as fabrics, found metal objects, found objects in nature such as branches, parts of tools, or parts of like a faucet, I think was one of them, stones, wire, beads. So I think that it was really great that you gave them a lot of options, and then kind of searched to make sure that what we had in the building was accessible to them, and you showed them that as well. So they really had a concept of what they could work with ahead of time. The students then went on to make drawings, and then you circulated the room and talked to almost everyone this time about what they were doing and what pitfalls they could avoid. You always, even if it seems like the student is choosing something more complicated, you were always supportive of that choice, and you say, we will figure that out as we go, and problem solve as we go. So you definitely are doing a great job of encouraging them to make things, even if they are a little more sophisticated or difficult to build. There are many students that are in progress in this project and are doing really well. There's one student that's working on a beautiful sea turtle, and then she's going to be smashing up mosaics and then mosaicing those in after the turtle is glazed and fired. There's someone that's making a dream catcher and then creating her own beads. There's just a variety. So every student has something completely different than the student next to them, which is perfect for ceramics too, because we really want to start to push them towards that AP level where they start to make work that looks different than the person next to them and looks less like an assignment. So overall, I think that the students are really starting to get used to you and feel very comfortable talking to you and trust that you know what you're doing, which isn't always the case. So they are really looking to you for answers and to make sure that they're doing things correctly, and you're great working with them one-on-one and helping them problem solve. And I've definitely noticed that you've improved as far as jumping in and making sure that they're all on task. It is hard. There's with a class that meets every other day, to keep everyone on task. Some kids pull out homework, some kids just don't really get started as soon as they should. And so you're going to run into that, especially in an elective class that's every other day. So that's something that you might need to, unfortunately, have those difficult conversations with those students to get started that are falling behind. That is, I think, maybe going to be one of your biggest challenges, and has always been my biggest challenge, is just managing students that are avoiding doing the work. They're not necessarily being disruptive to the rest of the room, but just avoiding getting started. Once they get started, they're usually okay. So that's the hurdle. But you've been really excellent with certain students and reaching them and making sure that they are staying on task and staying in line with the rest of the class. So that would be maybe the only suggestion I have, because the other suggestion I would have had, I feel you're already doing naturally, which is really getting in there and speaking with the kids and circulating and not being shy about talking to them. The lesson's definitely interesting. The students in that class are definitely benefiting from having you in the class, because they have two teachers to bounce ideas off of and to problem solve with. I can see the difference between the refinement level in this class versus the class where I'm the only teacher, because they are getting that extra attention from you, and I think that's really been beneficial for that group.